morning, everybody. It is 9:37 on April 30th, 2025. We've got some echo in the room. It might just be reverb because of my cold. I'm not sure. But if someone's computer is on in such a way, it might be nice if we can fix that. Anyhow, the Minnesota Senate Committee on Rules and Administration is called to order. A quorum is present. Good morning, everybody. We have a number of things to do this morning, so we're going to get started right away with the Senator Latz proposal. Senate File 2068, Senator Latz. Welcome to the committee.
It's nice to be back, Madam Chair.
It's good to be here. We're here to hear Senate File 2068, which is here because it's late. We'd love it if you would explain to us the purpose of it and its lateness, and then we can go from there.
Sure, I can tell you the substance of the bill. I'm sure all of you are aware of the tragedy that happened in St. Louis Park at the Park Tavern when a drunk driver who had 5 priors spread out over 30 years drove drunk through an outdoor seating area patio, killed a server, killed a patron, injured 9 other people. The people who were, all of them were there from our Methodist Hospital Park Nicollet system. The server was the daughter of a longtime server at Park Tavern, so there was generational workforce there as well, valued members of the community. And the fact was that this driver had valid driving privileges because despite all of his priors, he had successfully completed the ignition interlock program before, had gone off of that after 6 years, and was fully reinstated. And so my first reaction was, with his history, maybe the interlock program should have been required for a longer duration than it was. My colleague in the other body and I took a good look at the DWI statutes, and the basic framework of this bill does 2 things. It extends on a graduated basis the length of interlock duration that's required for repeat offenders only. It doesn't address anything relating to first-time offenders. And it also extends the look-back period from the current 10 years to 20 years, only for purposes of the interlock requirement for reinstatement. It does not do anything with regard to enhancing criminal charges or convictions or minimum sentences on the criminal side. Along the way, we looked at some recodification to clarify the DWI, especially the interlock statutes, because they're pretty complicated in the way they've accreted over the years. We have also added in some other reforms that have been sort of waiting on the sidelines for the right opportunities. One of those reforms is to extend the interlock requirement to those, and eligibility to those who have committed a criminal vehicular homicide that's alcohol-related. Current law, in fact, from the day interlock was initiated, included criminal vehicular operation, which is a crash with injuries up to and including great bodily harm. To get reinstated, a person could do so with interlock. But it did not include those cases where someone died. And of course, I mean, we're talking about tragic circumstances either way, but the line between a serious bodily injury and death is simply a medical question, and the fortuity of an injury that takes one course or another, right? So the underlying premise for all of this is that the interlock is a widely used across the country demonstrated safety device that has a substantial impact in reducing DWI offenses on the roads. That is well acknowledged. No one is challenging the validity of those conclusions. So then the question is, who should have to use it, or who should be eligible to use it? The other part of the underlying assumptions here, which we also know from studies that are not challenged, is that the fact is people will drive with or without valid driving privileges, if they have to make the choice between keeping their jobs, earning money to put food on the table for their families or to pay the mortgage or the rent. And they'll take the chances that they simply will or will not get caught when they're out driving without valid driving privileges. So in Minnesota and across the country, the theme has been, let's get as many people driving validly with insurance, with the interlock safety device in their vehicles as possible. And then how do you do that? Well, in this case, we want to extend that eligibility to those who have committed the most serious offenses, who I would submit need the eligibility for the interlock safety device the most. And that's the ones who have committed the offenses that resulted in the death of someone else. We also take other steps in this bill to try to funnel people into the interlock program who have the option of opting out under the law, or more importantly, who are required under the law but simply don't do it, by increasing the penalties for driving after a revocation that results from an alcohol-related offense where interlock is then required to get valid driving privileges. We increase the penalties for those who are using the interlock program or are in the program but either violate the terms or conditions of it, such as driving a vehicle without interlock or attempt to start a vehicle while having alcohol in their system, those kind of things. And then there are a few other pieces of more DWI-type reform stuff, plate impoundment, adjustments for putting a sticker on the plate instead of requiring law enforcement to confiscate the plate, making it a crime to tamper with that sticker, for example. So we clean up a few other things in the statutes along the way, but that's the essence of the bill.
Thank you, Senator Latz. And can you share why the bill is late, please?
It is late because we had an awful lot of work to do to get our omnibus budget bill together. We were tracking with the other body the changes that were being made on this bill. There continued to be new input from stakeholders as to how we ought to fine-tune this bill and other pieces that would be valuable to include in it, and we simply ran out of time to get all of that together in the same week and a half or so that we were finalizing our budget bill, our budget and policy bill. It's all combined in our jurisdiction into one bill.
Thank you, Senator Latz. And one more question from me before I turn to the members. I understand that there is some fiscal impact to this, but that is being carried in your spreadsheet. Is that accurate?
That is correct, Madam Chair. There is a fiscal impact on driver and vehicle services for the increased number of utilization of the interlock program. And that's being carried in our spreadsheet, but it's out of it's within the Transportation Committee's jurisdiction, that part of DVS, and it's not a general fund impact. It's being taken out of a special revenue account.
Senator Latz, I just wanted to make sure I raised that because I wanted to make sure we knew that that part of the work had been before the Finance Committee already.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, do you have questions for Senator Latz? Senator Rest.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Latz. Thank you for improving the ignition interlocked bill. Almost 40 years ago, I was the initial author of this program, and it was considered fanciful, that was not going to work, was not going to save lives. I made a trip to the National Transportation Safety Board, and they, on the other hand, were very encouraging. And then within a couple of years, it was, by continuing to pursue it, it was passed. And I'm very proud of that personal achievement, and also as we have dealt with it over the years, seen opportunities to to improve it, sometimes just the technology, and sometimes in reaction to a murderous event like the one that has occasioned you bringing the legislation. Just want to thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Limmer.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Being the ranking member on Judiciary, we heard this bill just recently, a few days ago. And I just wanted the committee to know that it garnered universal support on our committee, strong bipartisan effort, and just wanted the record to show that this is a very well-received piece of legislation. Thank you, Senator Latz.
Thank you, Senator.
Further questions for Senator Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Latz. I just want to get back to the bill itself. So on the in the other body, has it made the deadlines there? Is it moving within that body as well?
Madam Chair,
Senator Latz.
Senator Johnson, yes, it's scheduled for floor action tomorrow in the other body. It's through their Ways and Means Committee and the rest of their process. We were originally anticipating hearing this on the floor on Friday, but given that it's been scheduled in the other body, I think we're going to wait for them to act and send it over to us, and then we can take action next week.
Thank you. And, Leader Murphy, if we could too, last year we had a record-breaking year for number of late bills that came through this committee. I just want to understand what it looks like this year. Are we anticipating more late bills coming up here as we get into the final few weeks of the legislative session here? So we're not spending a lot of time in rules going over bills that may or may not have merit. I'm not going to get into the substance of the bill, but I think prioritizing those bills that have support and getting out of here would be a good idea. But I just kind of want to know what you see for volume.
Thank you, Leader Johnson. And we have 2 bills on the agenda today that would be considered late bills, but there aren't very many that are coming to me, so I don't anticipate, because the Senate has been doing its work, and we started on time. I don't anticipate that there are a number of late bills that are going to come here. And of course, we'll be judicious in our choosing on that front.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Latz, for all your work on this issue. I'm just highlighting that Senator Latz and I will continue to talk, because I did highlight a couple things around the interlocking system and how sometimes what happens is that if someone is on it, if they do not, if the car needs repair, and if there's delay in getting that notice, that instead of the system picking up where they left off as far as time, they make them start all over again, even if they had been, complying for 2 years, right? And so I think that is challenging, and I know that's just one of the issues. Not to mention that every day a person is on the interlocking system, they're paying. So I heard Senator Latz, speak briefly about it, but I just wanted to just acknowledge that, and that I'll continue to try to work with Senator Latz to find the right balance, in my opinion, around how do we make sure that individuals who are using the system, and if there's a legitimate reason why they're not driving because of a car repair or the car breaks down, that they don't end up getting penalized or punished for starting for needing that work done on their car or finding a pathway and then being punished by starting all over again. So thank you so much for your conversation, Senator Latz, and we'll continue to talk.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Senator Marty online has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just simply wanted to confirm what Senator Latz said, that, the Senate Finance Committee did effectively heard this because it was listed on the spreadsheet and so on, and it specifically called out this bill because the bill was traveling separate from the money which they're carrying. So we did hear the bill, just to confirm that.
Thank you, Senator Marty. All right. Senator West, would you be willing to move?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that Senate File 2068 be recommended to pass.
Senator Rest moves that the provisions of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4 be suspended for all further proceedings on Senate File 2068, and that the previous committee report be adopted.
Yes, that's my motion.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. And that motion is adopted. Thank you, Senator Latz. We will take up Senator Limmer's proposal next, which is Senate File 3289. Senator Limmer? And just in terms of order, then we'll probably move next to Senator Seeberger and then to Senator Hoffman, as he's not quite here yet. Senator Rest.
Senator Pappas and I wondered, did we actually put the Latz amendment on the bill?
What is this?
Ah, okay, thank you. Sorry. That's all right. You got me in trouble.
Welcome to the committee, Senator Limmer.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. As I was being seated, I asked Senator Latz to stick around and be my legal advisor, and he said, oh, no, not on your bill. So, under consideration is Senate File 3289. It's known as the Revisor's Bill, and many of you will know that the bill is an annual event. It generally corrects technical errors in statutes and laws. It corrects erroneous and incomplete cross-references and internal references. It corrects grammatical errors and miscellaneous drafting, engrossing, or other errors. If there's technical questions, I do have Mr. Jeff Case. He's Deputy Revisor of the Office of the Revisors. He's in the room if there are questions, but this bill is generally late because there was a lot of errors to correct, and the office wanted to make sure that they covered as many as possible, and that's why we are here today.
Thank you, Senator Limmer. I appreciate that. This is one of those late things in a good way. It signals spring, among other things. So I'm glad to see you here. Members, do you have questions for Senator Limmer?
Madam Chair.
Senator Pappas.
Madam Chair, and I understand the copies are online because it's really thick to print. So we've saved some trees by not printing copies of these all technical. I know that we've done this many times, and it's gone over by nonpartisan staff and approved by everyone, so.
Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am trying to think of a really technical question to ask Senator Limmer, but I can't think of one, so, especially without the bill in front of me, so I'll take Senator Pappas's word for it.
Very good. Seeing
Madam
no further.
Chair,
Senator Limmer.
I could give Senator Miller a really technical answer, and that wouldn't make sense either.
True. Okay. Senator Miller would like to move that the provision of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4 be suspended for all further proceedings on Senate File 3289, and that the previous committee report be adopted. Any questions on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say no. And that is adopted. Thank you, Senator Limmer. All right. Next, we would take up Senator Seeberger's Senate File 2300. Good morning, Senator Seeberger, and welcome to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It is my pleasure today to present to the committee Senate File 2300. I do have an author's amendment, the A3, if I could offer that.
The
Madam Chair.
A3 is in your packets, members. Senator Pappas.
Madam Chair, I'll move the author's amendment.
Senator Pappas moves the A3 amendment. Senator Seeberger, would you like to describe the amendment for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A3 amendment represents changes and amendments to the original 2300 after many conversations with stakeholders, the bill authors, Senator Pappas, with the assistance of the Commissioner of Department of Labor and Industry, and represents additional clarity where there were questions originally and some compromise when it comes to some of the provisions of the bill. For example, one of the changes represented by the A3 is to reduce the small business exemption from the original 15 to 4. Which means that it would exempt small business or micro businesses with 3 or fewer employees. Other changes are to clarify some of the questions that had arisen with regard to what folks had called the prorating problem. Concerns with regard to whether folks who were hired after January 1 would be able to have an inequitable amount of front-loaded earned sick and save time hours. And with the technical assistance of Commissioner Blissenbach, we were able to clarify that in new language, which is represented in lines 1.18 to 1.22 of the A3 amendment. Finally, with regard to, there was concern with regard to the more generous PTO question. And that has been addressed in lines 1.18 through 1.16 of the A3 amendment to clarify that rather than an open-ended, more generous PTO policy, we would, the idea would be to put employees back in the position they were prior to earn sick and save with 160 protected hours. Clarifying language also indicating that an employer could not require an employee to use protected hours if they were not using them for sick or save time, and to enact that effective January 1, 2026 to ensure that earned sick and save time was always meant to be a short-term, to cover short-term illnesses. And if an employee needed longer, the enactment as of January 1, 2026 would afford them the protections of paid medical family leave. That is what the A3 does.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger, and I know you have put a lot of work and effort into this over the course of the session. And I know you've worked closely with Senator Pappas and others. And legislating isn't easy, and compromising isn't easy, and I really appreciate the work that you've done on this, and I want to thank you for that, and everybody who's been involved.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Members, are there questions? Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Seeberger, I'm just curious why on page 1, line 7, we're changing the number from 15 or more employees and reducing that to 4 or more employees. What's the reasoning for that?
Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Miller. This was a topic of a lot of conversation, and it's trying to find the balance between, kind of where that tipping point is for small and micro businesses. When I ran the numbers with the assistance of the commissioner, the estimates were if we exempted businesses with 15 or more employees, we would be affecting somewhere around 430,000 workers. And if it was 10 or more, we were looking at 350,000 workers. Even 5 or more put us at almost 150,000 workers. And the thinking was when you're a larger small business, I mean, a small business includes businesses that have employees of up to 100 employees. In my case, I owned a small business. It was me and an associate attorney and a paralegal. We were kind of the three amigos, We were a tightly run pack, and we did what we had to do to keep my business running. But I will tell you this, that the business depended on me billing hours for legal work. And when I wasn't billing hours for legal work, when I was doing something else, the business was not making money. And I found myself spending an inordinate amount of time running the business. And while these things are easy to figure out, when it comes down to the person, I'm a trial lawyer, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an HR director, I'm not a tax professional, but those are all the things that I had to do. And trying to find that sweet spot between, what kind of businesses is this the most onerous on, and who will reach their tipping point quicker versus a larger small business that maybe has staff to take care of some of these other issues. And sort of taking into consideration number of workers affected, the effects on the business of all the new mandates that went in 2023, landed on 4 or more employees to really carve out the small micro businesses like mine, which incidentally is now out of business. I reached my tipping point. I didn't want to spend any more time figuring out how to run it. It was too much, especially with this job. So I actually spent last weekend closing up shop, moving out, lease is up today, and it's the end of Seeberger Law.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Seeberger. I also own a couple small businesses with employees anywhere in the 25 to 40 range, depending on which business it is. And I will tell you that we very much operate as a small business, and we don't have large numbers of staff in different departments. A lot of our employees who do a fantastic job, but they wear multiple different hats. So that's my concern is how we're getting to that number and how we're defining a small business, because as you mentioned, sometimes folks describe a small business as 100 or less. I've seen it more, I've seen it less, but that's my only concern, is that we're lowering that number.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate Senator Seeberger and the many meetings that we've had, also including Senator Frentz and Senator Hochschild in some of the meetings. I think that we have reached a good number. It's not perfect, but, and I mean a good amendment. It's not perfect, but I do still have some concerns, because we are evidently a state of small businesses. More small businesses than I think a lot of us realized. And so even with the limit to less than 4 employees, we're still impacting 50,000 workers. And it is concerning that we would be taking away a benefit that these workers have had for the last year and a half. I did want to comment on the concern of small businesses, because I've talked many times with the commissioner and people in the department, and they're very willing. They've done lots of trainings around the state, works with lots of Chamber of Commerces, and individually talk to small businesses. They have their frequently asked questions on their website about how to easily implement this law and kind of the simple ways you can do it. You can upfront all the hours, then you don't even have to keep track. It's really 48 hours is pretty small compared to what businesses are already offering, who offer earn sick and safe time. So the big goal, I think, with here is clearing up some of the confusion that was out there in the language. Legislative language can often be difficult to understand for lay people, and also the rulemaking process is also helping businesses to understand more how to implement the law.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also want to say that our full-time employees in the businesses, at least that I'm involved in, our PTO benefits far exceed what the minimum standards are in this bill, and I think that's the case for many businesses across the state. But Madam Chair, I do have one more question for Senator Seeberger. You discussed this on the Senate floor a little bit yesterday. If you get a favorable vote today in the Rules Committee, when can we expect to see this bill up on the Senate floor, and are you planning to have it as a standalone bill on the Senate floor?
Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Miller, that's not up to me. But I have received assurances from Leader Murphy that this bill will go to the floor as a standalone. The question is scheduling, perhaps next week. And on your comment earlier, I did the same with PTO. My employees had unlimited sick time. If you're sick, don't come in. And in my experience dealing with other small businesses like mine, they had the same types of policies.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, so what is the plan then for this bill if we get a favorable vote today in committee?
Thank you, Senator Miller. If we have a favorable vote on the bill today, it will be sent to the floor, and we will get it scheduled. I'll talk with Chris Runquist and get it scheduled. It will be a standalone bill. Other questions? We have before us the A3 amendment. Seeing no further discussion, Senator Pappas moves the A3 amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say no.
No.
The A3 is adopted. Are there other questions or issues on this? Senator Marty?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't like wading into this and so on, and I appreciate both the concerns of small businesses, and I recognize a lot of them have and do offer better benefits than this. I'm concerned about the ones that don't, and I want to move the A4 amendment, which would delete Section 1, which would retain it at the one employee. And I think Senator Pappas's comment that we're taking away a benefit from people who have it. And so I just wanted to offer this for the committee's consideration, the A4 amendment, which would bring it back down from the 4 back to where it was.
We'll just give the committee a minute to get the amendment. Senator Marty is moving the A4 amendment, and he has described it as a deletion of just one section of the proposal. Does everybody have it? Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I understand this would remove the microbusiness exemption that I worked so hard on. I understand that there are concerns with regard to taking away a benefit that is already in effect, the effect that it would have on 50,000 workers. I'd like to remind the committee that the workforce in Minnesota is approximately 3 million people. This is a little over 1% of the workers. The microbusinesses like mine, who offer unlimited paid time or unlimited sick time for employees, are already in compliance with the mandates of the Earned Sick and Safe Time laws. To the extent that there are employers that do not treat their employees well, they shouldn't do that. They should, and in microbusinesses, normally we do because we rely so heavily on such a few number of people to make our businesses work. I would oppose the A4 amendment, but I understand that there are concerns with carving out even microbusinesses of 3 or fewer.
Chair.
Senator Pappas.
Madam Chair, I already made my comment about taking away a benefit, but I also wanted to add that there have been a lot of complaints about the difficulty of tracking the hours and the paperwork involved. And so just imagine you're a microbusiness and you have 3 employees, and suddenly you want to add a 4th, and now you're maybe not in compliance with the law, and now you have to figure out how you can be in compliance with the law. And do your workers now, did you have to count the hours that they had, that they should have been banked for earned sick time or not? I mean, it does create a lot more confusion. I think it's just simpler to say everyone needs to comply, and if they are giving benefits that are more generous than earned sick and safe time, then they don't have to do anything.
Senator Miller.
Madam Chair, I'd request a roll call, please.
Thank you, Senator Miller. Are there other questions? Senator Marty has moved to amend the A3 amendment with the A4 amendment. A roll call has been requested, and the clerk will take the roll.
Alrighty, on the matter of the A4 amendment, Senator Champion, how do you vote?
Aye.
Senator Coleman? No. Senator Frantz?
Aye.
Senator Johnson?
No.
Senator Limmer,
No.
Senator Marty,
Aye.
Senator Miller? No. Senator Murphy?
Yes.
Senator Pappas?
Yes.
Senator Rest? On a vote of,
That's okay, I'll call it precinct. Thanks. Thanks. With six, there'll be 6 yeas and 4 noes. The amendment to the amendment is adopted. Before us is now the amended A3. Senator
Chair.
Pappas.
I would move the Senate File 2300 as amended be recommended to pass and sent to the floor.
Senator Pappas, would you please make that motion one more time?
Yes, I move that Senate File 2300 as amended be recommended to pass and sent to the Senate floor.
Are there questions? Seeing no questions, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And those no? That motion is adopted. Thank you, Senator Seeberger, very much. Last before us is Senator Hoffman. Senator Hoffman, welcome to the committee.
Don't know if I want to be here, but thanks for the welcome.
But we're so happy you are.
I'm so happy I'm here too. I'd rather be at Sugarloaf right now at the hot fish shop.
You and me both, Madam Chair, you and me both, Senator Hoffman.
We could all take a moment, close our eyes, and imagine another place. But then we'll open our eyes and we'll be here again. We're here today to take up your Senate File 3054, which is brought to us through a Rule 21 motion on the floor. I know that Senator Rasmussen is here. I know that Senator Dibble is here. So welcome to the committee. If you'd just like to give us an update or just a brief overview of the bill, and then maybe we could ask up the others to talk about the issue at hand. Senator Hoffman.
Madam Chair and members, you asked me to give you a brief overview of the Human Services Bill. All right. So during a time of economic insecurity, there are threats to Medicaid funding, and the dismantling of a disability support system at a federal level has every budget provision weighing against the impact of seniors, people with disabilities, and the poorest of the poor. That's where we're at. And one of the things we talk about is the budget that we did put together, we believe, and actually it's still in a work in progress. Senator Abler has been working with some small, we've had other people working with some groups to make sure that provisions are there, because two things. Number one, the opinion was to get the target, which I thanked Senator Marty for staying within the fact that it's not 65% of the cut, but rather it's 25%. And the work, the due diligence work that he did there, we're able to then tighten the belt. And we're asking everybody within the home and community-based services structure to tighten the belt. And for those of you that don't understand the home and community-based services structure, actually in health and human services, let's just do this. Minnesota invests $25 million into a bucket that Health and Human Services gets to draw down, Madam Chair, to do the work that is for the most poorest of the poor, our disabled, and our people with, that are elder, right? And the other thing you should know as I move on to that section of the $25 million, because the feds then match currently $30 billion to that 25, which gives you a bucket of $55 billion. Why is that important? Well, it's important because 25% of our population is 65 and older. 1 in 5 of our population in the state of Minnesota live with a special health care need. So now we got elderly and we have people with disabilities all in there. 1 in 10 is chronic. So the decisions that we make are going to have an effect on human beings, period. And so what we tried to do was to lay across an even scale of budget tightening up of your budget, tightening your belt a little bit. So, and that's what we did. The other thing that comes, and I can look at a few of you, you all talk about fraud, waste, and abuse, right? And it starts within the jurisdiction of human services because it is the largest, right? And so one of the things that we wanted to focus on specifically, matter at hand, which I'm glad, Senator Rasmussen did bring it up. Y'all can't speak out of both sides of your mouth. If you want to have transparency and you want to have fraud, waste, and abuse, you want to know where public dollars are being spent, then I believe, and this is my personal opinion, since you asked me, I believe that the Dibble bill actually got to that. Now, I understand the provision that you have a concern about is the enforcement side of it, and so be it. I think Senator Miller might perhaps have something that will probably make it a whole in the case of going forward. So with that, I mean, I could go on and on and on if you want, but you never ask a senator to give you a brief update of a bill that's that big. I mean, it's. You want to talk about rate methodology or the methodology of this Section 1 of the Social Security Act and how the Healthcare Administration is supposed to?
Senator Hoffman, you are right. I used the wrong word brief. It never works. I apologize and concede the point, but I appreciate you giving us that opening.
Sure.
And perhaps we should invite Senator Rasmussen and Senator Dibble to join, since
sure.
they're both parties to this as well.
Go ahead.
Welcome to the committee. Senator Rasmussen, you were the maker of the Rule 21 motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the time to come to rules, and I also appreciate getting the opportunity to work with Senator Dibble ahead of time on the A1 amendment, which would address the concerns that brought me to bring the Rules 21 objection in Senate File 2972, which was included in an amendment in the Finance Committee. The A1, which I believe is posted, would remove the prohibited practices section, which is, I believe, within the Commerce jurisdiction. It would also remove Attorney General enforcement within judiciary, while still maintaining the disclosure provisions that are in Senate File 2972. And this is a bill that's related to transactions between for-profit and nonprofit skilled nursing facilities and assisted living facilities.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Senator Dibble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Likewise, I appreciate the opportunity to work and speak with Senator Rasmussen as well as Senator Klein and Senator Hoffman on the concerns in the bill. And I just want to thank Senator Hoffman for being a very able advocate on this matter and on behalf of those who reside in our nursing homes and assisted living facilities who are seeing the negative consequences of the takeover of for-profit and private equity firms of our nonprofit institutions. The problems have been pretty stark and pretty shocking and pretty concerning, and I think it is something we absolutely need to pay attention to as a state and a legislature. We didn't have the opportunity to do so in Commerce this year, and I hope we get back to this work next year in Commerce to talk about those things. I don't want to mischaracterize what remains in the bill is important, and I'm grateful to Senator Rasmussen to agreeing to the disclosure pieces, because those are important. It's important to know who exactly is purchasing these properties, et cetera. But just Madam Chair, with your indulgence, and so the public knows what we're eliminating, what I hope we get back to talking about, because the evidence is clear and stark, and even industry representatives are quoted, in publications and the like, saying that outcomes are poorer for people living in these facilities when for-profit entities purchase them, and that is objective, measurable. It's available through research. It's also available through anecdote. We hear a lot about what's been happening. The kinds of things that we are not going to be moving on is prohibiting the interference of professional judgment of healthcare professionals, making sure that people are provided equal treatment regardless of the source of payment, making sure that assets aren't being stripped from these facilities, that there's no self-dealing, making sure that there are no practices that result in an adverse impact on health, safety, and well-being and quality of care of these residents, making sure that, in fact, an appropriate amount of resources that are being brought to operate these facilities is being spent on those facilities, and they're not driving, the profits to an extent that's disproportional or inordinate, not jacking up the price and cost of living beyond the consumer price index, allowing for the the reduction in the maintenance or deterioration on the infrastructure, et cetera. So, Madam Chair, I just wanted to put that out there. That's what I'll probably bring this up on the floor as well. That being said, I look forward to more conversation, more debate. It's a very important subject, and I think we will take what we call the proverbial incremental step forward on an area that's really important to address. Thank you. I support the amendment.
Thank you, Senators Rasmussen and Dibble. Members, do you have questions for either of them before we go to the amendment? Seeing no questions, Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move the A1 amendment in the spirit of compromise and continued discussion amongst the members that have been working on this. I'm happy to briefly explain the amendment. Otherwise, I think Senator Rasmussen could probably do a better job than me or Senator Dibble explaining the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Miller. Senator Miller moves the A1 amendment. I'm looking to see who would like to speak to the amendment.
Oh, Madam Chair, it simply takes out those two sections that Senator
Thank you.
Rasmussen described.
Senator Hoffman.
I'm looking at the chief author, the guy who's done all the work for many years. And actually, the work that Senator Dill has done goes back beyond even 10 years, Madam Chair. And so anytime you can have a consensus or an agreement to move something forward, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Hoffman. We have before us the A1 amendment. Members, do you have questions? Seeing no questions, all those in favor of the A1 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say no.
No.
And that motion is adopted. We have before us, are there other questions? Okay. Senator Miller moves that the recommendation from the report from the Committee on Finance be amended, that the recommendation being the bill being amended, and when so amended, the bill do pass. And Lexi, would you like to explain that? Because that's a lot of ifs.
It is sort of a strange motion, Madam Chair, so I can explain that. So the committee report is before the committee today, so we are amending the committee report to do something else. So we're amending the committee report to finance to incorporate this amendment. So the effect of that motion will amend the committee report to finance to incorporate this amendment, which is, I believe, what you would like to do.
Senator Miller.
Madam Chair, that is exactly my intention.
I'm glad you're so precise so that I don't have to read it again. Senator Miller makes no, I can't speak. The exact motion. Are there questions? Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And those opposed say no. And that is adopted. And it is on its way. And with that, members, that concludes our agenda. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to update on Senator Drazkowski's Senate Resolution 35 regarding vacating the president's seat during this ethics hearing. Just wondering when we're going to be able to bring that up on the agenda for the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Senator Johnson, for raising that. Of course, that resolution, unfortunate as it was, resides with the Rules Committee, and for the time being, I don't have plans to bring it up. There is an ethics matter that requires attention and resolution, and I think it would be inappropriate at this point to bring that up. So for now, it's just going to hang out here.
Madam Chair, do we anticipate further rules hearings going forward? And when might that be?
Thank you, Leader Johnson. Yes, given the time of the year and the work that we're doing, while I don't have anything scheduled right now, I would anticipate there will be further rules hearings.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Leader Johnson. With that, this meeting is adjourned.